That's a great way to start it because we're recording now. So what was the
that's
question?
perfect.
What was the question you just asked? What was this nugget of knowledge that we're going to solve today?
We're gonna solve this crazy idea. So my cousin called me, and I'm fifth generation oil and gas, and he's working on a frac job. Yeah. It's crazy, huh? Yeah. So if you start calculating.
So your dad's dad.
Well, I mean, there's some overlap because you got to think they were alive together, right? So
what's your last name? Drake?
Oh, there you go. That would be great. No,
that's an oil field joke, Colonel Drake. All right.
But he calls me and he goes, Bailey, Lord Bailey, how do I get career advancement in the oil and gas industry if I can't work overtime? And I kind of paused and I was like, well, let me ask you this. What do you mean? Like, can you not because of your schedule? Is it pertaining to your supervisor? Is it a company as a whole? And he basically said, they don't allow overtime. And this is something we're seeing more and more of. And I think here's why. So, back in the day, it was, hey, can you work a shift? Can you work another shift? So when my dad was a driller, he'd get off of his drilling job at his rig, whatever, Exeter Rig 7, whatever the case may be. And his uncle, or my uncle, would call and say, hey, can you come roughneck for me? So it was just nonstop, right? And back then, you took it when you could have it. Because I remember stories in '89 to where my dad said he was working on the only rig in Wyoming for less money than a gas station clerk because he wanted to be on a rig. So when the going's good, you want to go get it, right?
Yeah. No. So hold on a second. So what's the thing though? So they made overtime. So the question is this: so how do you advance the oil field without putting in overtime?
Yeah. So with avoiding that, and I mean, it's not just that position, right? So I think the great thing to look at is, CFOs, managers, they got smart. What's the highest cost or what's your number one cost running a business? Your employees.
Yeah.
What's one cost that you can manage or you can control? Your employees. So there's two variables at play, right? So you want to make sure you have successful career-driven employees, but you also want to make sure you can budget that, and I mean, salary's obviously an automatic one, that people go with. I know.
Let's pause here. I think there's a lot of aspects to this. Number one, the association of advancement with overtime. I mean, do you need to have overtime for advancement? And what does advancement look like? But number two, let's talk about the money, the salaries and all that stuff in the oil and gas industry. I remember, listen, I started trying to figure this out, like my own stuff out like 2-3 years ago. So I'm not that in touch when it comes to, day rates and, salaries and all that stuff. But however, I have noticed that other industries, gas station, Buc-ee's, for example, they're offering $32,000
for like a manager.
Yeah.
I saw someone when I was in Texas. I think I was in Richardson like 6 months ago, and I kind of paused. I took a Snapchat of it because I was like, really?
But dude,
Googled it.
But the thing is, so think about that. You're offering kind of the same amount, and before it's like, the oil field pride, we do it, but oil field trash makes an oil field cash. Like there's that sense of like, hey, we work hard, but we get paid for it. But you have like gas stations paying 401ks, paying over $20 an hour. So to me, it's like, how do you compete? How does the industry? Let's back it up. Let's not even talk about advancement. Let's just talk about retaining, recruiting people first. Okay.
Right.
Let's get there before we get into that. To your cousin, first off, your cousin's an avid listener. I want to give a shout out to him. No, I don't know if he is or not. But
he better be. If not, he better be now. One, right?
but let's talk about that. Like what is it? What's the situation today when it comes to kind of recruiting fresh talent into the industry or retaining talent, especially when you have so many different competing salaries at Buc-ee's, at wherever. I mean, so where are we at?
A lack of creativity. I mean, I kind of expressed this a while back. So I thought about it and I said, here's the deal. We know as an industry, we need to find younger, successful individuals that want to join the industry, that want to be involved, from bottom to the top. There's a gap across the board. And it's not just our industry, but talking about ours, we've got to figure out a way to change that. I mean, so we have tons of third-party companies that do recruitment. We have tons of people that have, recruitment employees, career-driven employees, but that's not enough. I'm blown away that somebody hasn't sat down and said, what do we do? Do we start a new do we take away from the budget here and start like a creative hiring department? Like really put some time into this on how we're going to change this, because we're clearly, what we're doing isn't working, right? It's the definition of insanity. And we all know that, but yet we're so complacent, we're still not changing it.
You know what it is? It kind of reminds me of like the whole reason like Kids Crew was started. You know, like I remember sitting there in this room and everyone's like, oh, we got to do something. We should be doing something. We should be doing something. I'm like, well, let's just do something then. Like enough of this, what we could do, should do. Like, let's just take action. So, but the thing is though, that what you're saying, you know, like we got to get creative. We got to get creative. I love how you just said that. Because I've had other conversations with, you know, students at, you know, Colorado School of Mines who's graduating, Christian Grimes, who's going to be a topic facilitator at a crew club event. He's like, gone are the days where, you know, Shell would just put a booth up and they would get the best and brightest kids right in front of their booths where they could sign up. Those days are gone. So he's like, we have to think of ways. So number one, to showcase the industry that it's not just, you know, engineers doing this. It's, you know, it's marketing, sales, entrepreneurship, engineers, problem solvers. It's kind of reintroducing different aspects of our industry. But not only that, it's getting creative. It's getting creative with our message, what we're doing. You can't just set up a booth. We're so archaic and slow to respond to current trends.
We definitely are.
Is that a fair statement?
That 100%. We've always been a reactive industry, right? We're not we're not proactive. We're reactive.
Do you see that changing at all recently?
No.
Okay.
I want to say I see a lot of people talking about how we are and we need to change, but I don't see the change taking place, right? And I mean, shame on us. It's across the board. You know, I think we all have a little piece of that involvement that we need to change, and it's just like you said, we just have to do it. You know, and what that looks like, nobody knows because nobody's done it yet.
But the thing is, though, is that, let me ask you a question. To bring people in, obviously, you know, when it comes to cash, you know, people obviously are motivated for cash, and rightfully so. That's how you put a roof over your head. That's how you have free. I understand that. So besides cash, I think, what are your thoughts on kind of the message of the industry? Because, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, where you are. It's like whether you open up a bank account or whether you're, you know, listen to it, whatever. It's like, you hear about like pledge climate this, pledge climate that. There's been such a good job of associating that the, like, first off, climate change, but second off, like, oh, these new grads want to associate their, you know, their careers with, you know, how they morally feel, ethically feel, which I totally understand. I totally get that. I'm not taking away from that. But that also is another challenge. So it's not just money we're facing, but there's also a moral dilemma that we're doing a poor job of communicating the fact that hydrocarbons, natural gas, all stuff actually promote the health, the human flourishing. So we're doing a poor job of that, but there are leaders in the industry talking about stuff like that.
You know, Jack Hamlin had an amazing quote not too long ago when he was talking to Mark Lahore. And I always slash your last name. Sorry, Mark. I love you, buddy. But he said, we're not in the oil and gas business. We're in the, how did he put it? Bettering life business quality, the quality of life business. That's what he said, quote unquote. And
I like that.
It was, oh yeah. You know, like that should be on a t-shirt. I'm surprised like Baker Hughes or somebody didn't call him and say, hey, can we, you know, can we have that so we can use it? Cause it's amazing. You know, it's perfect, you know, and how we should brand ourselves.
So, okay. So
I guess on that point though, on branding, you know, you and I, we're pretty good. You know, we do videos and stuff like that. Some people are not comfortable with that. And that's a lot of discussion in itself. That's a separate thing. But I think a lot of these younger people, they're so involved in social media that it's almost like you have to brand to them that, hey, we'll help you build your brand. Like almost maybe that's a creative department. Hey, come work for us and we'll help you take care of your social media side with these tools, you know, just like they do. Hey, we'll pay to take you through college so you can advance into something else. Maybe that's something we need to look into. There's got to be avenues like that to make it, you know, shine brighter to the people versus a booth.
Or just make it kind of more relevant. I mean, no one really goes to booths anymore. I mean, tell the story, tell the experience. And I mean, there's so many people that put good content out there that, whether it's the day in the life of, or whether it's what they do, I think there needs to be more. I find that stuff interesting. And talking about your content real quick, make it a little more personal to you. I've seen your stuff recently and all this stuff. And I love it because it's like, I remember getting in this industry, there were so many people that were there to help. There were so many mentors there that wanted to teach you, show you how. I mean, I can name them from, Kirk Atkinson, Carrick Payton to Bubba Smith that would want me to succeed, wants me to achieve.
Right.
However, there's been a big crew change. There's been a big gap in when it comes to the mentorship and to that. What you're doing, what I see that you're doing, I think is so impactful, bro. Like, I just want to give you a shout out, like right here, because it's like, I see your stuff, and the scared part of me is like, oh my God, Lord, what are you doing? You're giving away, you're helping your competition, bro.
I really am. Right? Yeah.
You are like, yeah. So for those that don't know, first off, Lord, give a little background about yourself, just introduction real quick, because I do want to talk about the content real quick. I realize we haven't done that, so real quick.
No, for sure. Lord Bailey Midkiff here out of Casper, Wyoming. I'm fifth generation oil and gas. I started out 8 years old painting tanks on a rig Christmas Day for my dad. Rest is history. Currently right now, I am one of the amazing team members for PPC, Performance Pulsation Control. Other than that, I really just out here just trying to make it better, make it happen. Oil and gas. It's a small community in a big world.
So that's the thing. I've seen your stuff pop up a lot more lately. You've always been out there front and center, but it seems to me you're taking more of a voice. You're taking more of a platform and building that. And the stuff that you're putting out, and I highly recommend anyone starting off in sales or been in sales or business development, whatever that is. Like, I look at, whenever it comes up, I look at it, I'm like, dude, you're literally helping your competition. But I understand that's a bigger picture. You're just there to help, period. And I think that is something, whether it's branding or whether it's speaking out there to people maybe hesitant to put out content. If you put out something that helps someone, even if that's one person, do it. Because, let me ask you, finding this path, this avenue, what's propelling you to to help your competition, Lord? What's pushing you to do that?
I think two things. For one, the knowledge needs to be known. And like you said, stepping back, there used to be people that really help with that. We're just not seeing it anymore. And there is a gap. I love to give my competition the information. For another reason, I like competition. If I can better them, I have to better myself. It's a win-win across the board, and I love helping people. I'm well known in the oil and gas industry. Other salespeople, they'll call me and say, hey, do you know anybody here?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about this? Of course, here's this. Yeah, we have Google. All the information's out there. But I enjoy it. It's enlightening. It's, something I did a good deed for somebody else today by giving them information. And I welcome that.
What's been some feedback when you're putting this stuff out there, and what have you noticed?
A lot of positivity. It's never so much, I think, with content, nobody ever really nitpicks it, but they take a couple pieces out of it, and then, they'll express that. And that's all that counts. It's just like, you could read a book 3 times, but you're going to take something different out of it every time. Or I can listen to one of your podcasts 3 different times, and at the end catch something I didn't catch the first 3 times. So.
Well, listen to it 3 more, because there'll be a total of 6 downloads. So I appreciate that.
There you go. Yeah.
So okay, so give me how did you wind up kind of where you're at today and get in sales? And because there might be some nuggets of knowledge that go back to kind of our first question. How do you rise through the ranks in the oil and gas industry? How do you find your path in the oil and gas industry without overtime, without extra pay, without all these resources? How do you do it on your own? So how did you do it on your own?
So I was in operations drilling side for a long time, drilling services. And
I
started at the bottom, worked my way up, did a 2-year stint in North Dakota for Baker Hughes. I was actually the youngest supervisor they have ever had. So that's kind of an achievement in itself.
Well, you're painting tanks when you're 8 years old, so I'm not surprised about that.
That's fair. And, shout out to Lee Harns. He's the CEO of Altitude Energy Partners. He was at the time the sales guy for Newsco, and my ex-brother-in-law, and he called me and he said, hey, do you want to move back to Wyoming and do the same thing you're doing? Oh, of course, right? So I jumped, got high-paying money. Well, the crash hit. We went from 11 MWD jobs to 0. Well, there's not a job when you have 0 jobs, right? So
what year was this?
I want to say it was 2013.
Okay.
Maybe 2013, 2014. And I applied to a couple jobs, and a gentleman reached out to me, and he basically said, Bailey, he's like, you're such a people person. You're outgoing. You're always energetic. Have you ever thought about sales? And I was like, why not? And the rest is history. I fit like a glove. you read a lot of things. You can't be taught. It can be taught. It's natural. It's not natural. I've met some amazing people that are not salesmen at all. They're just technical and they're scared in front of people and they sell a ton of stuff. So there's no like really factual information to that, but it came natural for me. And once I started really pursuing personal growth, not so much pushed by the career path you're on or, the partnership with the company you work with, but on your own, there's so much information out there. And I treat it like this. So when you're learning how to play golf, I always tell people, well, go take a class about one aspect of golf and then just practice that for a couple games and then go do another one. Don't try to learn it all at once. That's the same thing with sales. Take one thing, put it into your playbook, make it happen, and then move on to the next one. And you start building up. Pretty soon you have a lot. I mean, I've been in sales probably 15 years now, and I learn something new every day.
I just want to kind of pause. I just really enjoy talking to you right now. You definitely charge me up for some reason. I love it. You have really good. I love it. Good energy. So if I was listening to this and thinking, okay, well, how can I emulate what Lord did? I actually jotted this. So I'm paying attention. I'm jotting this down. So number one, you said yes to opportunity. When someone came to you with a question, said, hey, do you want to move here? It wasn't like, well, let me think. It was yes. It was yes to opportunity. Second thing, perseverance. When you didn't have a job, you kept on applying. You kept yourself in the game. The third thing I wrote down is relationships. Like you get to know people. You get to know people on a personal level. And then the last thing I wrote down was lean into yourself, lean into your strengths. I think that was such an interesting lesson, earlier in my career. It's like, you want to be good at everything, you want to be like good at, but like, then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm spending 80% of my energy and effort on on my blind spot or my weakness or whatever it is. And I don't enjoy it. I'm just doing that to be more. Or I could focus more on my strengths and make more of an impact. So why would I focus on the weak side when I could really develop my strengths, my personal side?
Here's a big secret. Your weaknesses are never going to leave. So when you're a child, everything you learn, from your parents and whatever, it's there subconsciously. It never goes away. Habits, whatever the case may be, let your weaknesses be there. Just don't, if you think about them, that's a weakness. You're already on it. You're already on it. So focus on the strengths, continue to grow. Let it be there. Let your weaknesses be there.
So you're saying, I've been in sales 15 years, gotten sales is natural, sales is. Debunk a myth for me. What is sales?
You already said it. Relationships. I mean, if you Googled it, I feel like it would say something like somebody that brings a solution to your problem.
Yes.
It's what I would say it would be. I've never Googled it, but that's probably the textbook answer. But it is you and one to many other individuals solving a problem, but you're communicating in this process, right? You're building a relationship. You're talking about, the facts, what you can do to solve them, or maybe guiding them on a different path altogether. You're helping each other. I think customers help you more than you help them.
I completely agree.
I've heard this saying 100 times in my life, but for some reason, 2 weeks ago, I heard it and it stuck with me. He said, the Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And I was like, man, impactful, because that's just it, and I'm a talker. So that's, I'm well known. I have to sit there and hold back. I'm like, I want to say 20 different things, but I'm trying to take in as much as possible.
You know what I've noticed? I've noticed like whether it's a podcast, I feel like I have to fill every like dead space and air. It's like, what about this? I don't find myself listening. And I've noticed that from when I first started doing this podcast, kind of to where I'm at today. I still have to improve on it. But, I've had feedback like, JP, this is my favorite podcast in the whole wide world. Keep it up. Oh my God, I love it so much. It's changed my life. But no, it hasn't been that first part. But it's been like, hey, JP, I really like what you're doing. Slow down and listen a little bit. Like, that's the thing. Just like in sales. I mean, I remember at my crew club events, like I'll be sitting around, but the crew club events, I'll be sitting around. I was like, I got to fill the dead space. There is so much value. And I'm an extrovert just like you. You know what I mean? Like, I like talking.
It's fun. I enjoy it.
It is. However, there is so much value in slowing down and being okay with silence and listening. And I think active listening, you're right. It does help you improve, not just, you as whether it's a salesperson or whether it's business development or just accountant or HR, whatever you are, but it also helps your product. If you're out there pushing pumps that do, I don't know, pumps with 500 horsepower, and your customers are trying to tell you, dude, that's too much. We need something 200 horsepower. And you're saying, we got 500, and you're not listening.
Right.
You're missing the answer to your problem.
Exactly.
So I did that. So, okay. So we're talking about sales to you, helping people out.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. People ask, for people getting out there, for the advice, like, how do you get in the oil field? How do you get in the oil? Because that's the thing. It is nerve-wracking because there are booms and busts. Jobs do go away. So what is a way that you've seen in the past 15 years or 20 years or 5 generations? What do you see that lets people stick into the industry?
Proper leadership.
Okay.
And I think luckily for us, the ones that are most valuable to the oil and gas industry, be it any, upstream, midstream, downstream, if you're talking to middle to upper management, those are leaders. That's why they're there. That's why they're still here. So I think people get complacent and they hang out with their friend that, I work in the oil field. I make all this money. I got laid off. Well, then they're scared. Well, that's a small piece of the puzzle, right? There's a larger scheme, a much larger scheme, and they don't know what quality of employee their friend was. There's a lot of difference between being out with their friend versus working with them. Yeah. So I think they need to be open-minded, and that's just hard to do. A lot of people like to say we're open-minded, but it's automatic. I made a comment to my friend yesterday. I was like, hey, have you noticed with all these sales gurus that are posting stuff, they say don't do this. And I'm like, isn't it? So like a cardinal rule is not to talk bad about your competition, but have you noticed they're all doing that? See, he thought about it. He's like, whoa, kind of right. Because he's like, don't send an email like that. Let's be honest. There's no one way. And I've always found that mind-boggling. They're going to push what works for them.
Dude, you know what? That's so interesting you say that. Like, I'll be on so I'm a huge proponent of, like, if I'm on my phone, I don't want it just to be junk. So I've changed my algorithm, like I put in like entrepreneurs or sales, business development, coaching, whatever that is. Right. And I'll put that in there. And it's like, you're right. There's no, like, people are like, how do you send this cold email? You don't say this, you say this. Hey, right. Lord, I got 2 minutes for you. Better get back to me. It's like, dude, there's no right way. And that's the thing. There's no secret code. There's no secret sauce. For me, it's persistence, and it's kind of just being human. It's persistence and trying to help them out.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can never go wrong with creativity and just being like an actual person, right? Chat GPT, excuse me, all that stuff's exciting, but it's not human. It's not you. Not to like confuse people. Yeah. Be proper and politically correct and, professional, but you can still, you got to catch an eye somehow. So I think creativity is the biggest piece of the puzzle. There is one thing though that I don't think people talk about. So they may watch a lot of these videos and they get this idea, but you got to keep in mind too, that not every business is structured to allow that. I have seen, other salespeople where they're like, well, they want us to send our email this way. I'm like, well, I apologize. It probably isn't working that effective. Not to say, well, it might, but you're going to have that. So it's easy for us to say not to do it, but there's so many variables too that I don't think anybody highlights that either. They just go, hey, try this. Oh, well, that's great. Well, I can't try that. So what do I do now?
And that's the thing too, whether it comes to emailing or content and all that stuff. I think that our industry is extremely nervous and I think scared to kind of showcase what we do, who we are, the personalities. And I think it's getting better right now. I think, it's getting better. But you're right. There still is that stigma. It's like, don't stick your head out of the stand. Don't do anything different. Stay in this. And that's kind of a form of control. And to me, that's not empowering. I mean, if anything, you want your employees, like if I'm hiring you, I'm doing that for a reason because I think you're the best. Okay. Right. Well, try stuff out. Here's enough rope and make an impact your way. But there is a lot of, I guess, cautiousness in people holding their employees back to whether showcase who we are or allow them to do their job effectively.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. And I'd love to say I have an algorithm to change that, but there's.
Well, let me ask you a question. Where do you get your all intel? Is it reading stuff? Is it just practicing? I mean, how does Lord come up with the Lord rule book when it comes to sales?
I change it every day. And I mean, I do. I watch tons of other people. I get information. I do tons of research. And
What do you do your
sometimes,
research?
honestly,
Talk to me about not behind the camera. Talk to me about, I guess, kind of where you get your intel, your research, where you get your mind right. I mean, talk to me because hey, listen, sales in the oil field is a grind. It is a constant revolving door of rejection. So talk to me. How do you stay this energetic and positive and knowledgeable?
creativity. It always sticks with creativity. I mean, I spend tons of time, probably 2 hours in the morning in bed. So, I mean, let's just get an overview. You know, I wake up, wipe my eyes, lean over, make sure there's not the 4 a.m. phone call. Oh, hey, we need this now thing, you know, if everything's copacetic. Sit there and man, your mind's racing. You know, people talk about when you run in the morning, creativity. Well, there's a lot of creativity from getting up to just getting ready. You know, 100%. And I'll stand in the shower and I take some long showers. They're enjoyable, right? But I'm just like, brother. How do I change it? And I was telling you this morning, I was trying to change living the dream, which is a crazy simple thing. But I was like, what cool, exciting, you know, paragraph can I come up with, or 3 to 5 words that replaces that people start using? Because I mean, it's wore out. Living the dream, you know, it's just like Matthew McConaughey's all right. I've used that, but I mean, sometimes we got to think of new ones, you know, and a lot of it's trial and error. You know, I've sent some emails. I sent one a couple of days ago. I was like, best pulsation this side of the Mississippi, you know, you know, to see if they open it. And I have so we use HubSpot and they did open it. So I mean, you know, it worked, but.
So some trying to do stuff out. And I love that kind of concept. It's like, I've been really kind of like focused on like not reliving the last 6 months. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that.
I feel like we get in a cycle of like, oh, January, I'm gonna do dry January, and then February, oh, we got this in February. You just kind of cycle back into like the same routine, the same this and that. So like, I love how you're kind of even breaking apart like the little like common sayings. Like you're trying not to live like you were yesterday. So it's like, even like living the dream, even that small, significant, it's, you know, everyone accepts that. It's fine. But you're up there like, that's in your mind. Like, how do I change this? So I love the fact it's constantly, how do I change? How do I squeeze something new out of this? And dude, I'm the same way. Like I'll wake up in the morning, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. And it's just like creative mode. It's not anxiety. It's like, oh, this is so great. Like if I can do that, like, and I have to get up and I have to like start jotting down or thinking there, but it hits me in the morning. But like, and then when you want to be creative, like 2 p.m., it's like not there. So you got to grasp it when it's there. It's
funny you say that. So I'll pull this up. So when I think of something really good, I grab my phone and what I do is I type an email, but I don't send it. So it's in my drafts.
Yeah.
So I have it there, and I did one this morning. So let me see here. Let's see what I jotted down, because I remember I did some, but I haven't even looked at it yet. So this is fresh. This is hot off the press.
Okay.
So this is straight out of my mind. All right. Let's see here.
I love how you do that, because I schedule so I'll write it, then I'll schedule it to myself, like send it to me at like 10 a.m. or something like that.
So it's funny, I guess. So we talked about the living the dream thing. So I wrote down, good morning. What do you have on your schedule today? So this is like me reliving it in my mind. Oh, just working. And you? Are you just working, or are you learning? Are you planting a seed for someone else to learn? Let's not just work. Let's challenge each other and change the narrative. That's what I'd put at like for this morning.
I love that, man.
Yeah. Like changing. So it kind of goes with the one I was talking about. I've been trying to change, but I'm like, oh, I got the answer to change it. You know, you're not just working. You know, what are you really doing? What are you working on? You know, what are you thinking about? You know, what's in your mind? Just like you said, you know, what is it?
And that's tough too. Like that is tough, having that mentality. Like, well, I am just working. Like, I love the fact that you're kind of like changing, you're reframing the day. You're reframing kind of like, whether it's the everyday task of sales, hopping on that sales team call or filling a report, whatever it is, you're changing the perception of it, where you can actually attack it in a different way, with different energy, with a different outcome.
Exactly.
All right. So how do we succeed in the oil field without overtime? Back to the question, back to the root. What is that success to you? What does that mean?
Honestly, that's why I asked it, because I'm having a hard time. Because when I thought about it, so there's ways they changed it. So, I mean, obviously they want to reduce their overhead and their costs. And I mean, salary is one of them. compensatory time is one of them, which is a government thing. So like they pay vacation days instead of overtime, to kind of compensate for that. The straight time is obviously one they do, check splitting so they don't have to pay overtime at all. But all that is an awful answer because it's transactional, right?
Yeah, is it pay though? Yeah.
So I'm trying to think on it. And I mean, obviously networking is going to be like a big one, but it's just a generic answer, and it might be something as find out what your management team does voluntarily. Who do they volunteer with? Maybe try to volunteer there, spend time with them, learn information through that, and to kind of give some like understanding of his question, I'm pretty sure he meant that, for years, our parents and them before them, oh, well, you want to get, promoted. Well, you come in early, you stay late. That was just a generic answer. But the problem is now, they don't want to pay overtime. So that's you don't have that option. So now you've got to get creative. How am I going to do that? And it might be, spending personal time branding and focusing your branding based on that. And then your leadership sees that and they see the growth. But we've got to figure out a way to showcase that your desire to advance and, the quality that you'll bring to the table or the power and the impact.
I think this question is such a broad, great, rich question that I think people have been trying to solve years and decades. I would honestly have to say, like, let's take pay out of it. Okay. We don't control pay. We don't control salary. I mean, we don't. At the end of the day, if you are working for a company, they're going to be in charge, whatever it is. So let's take that out of it. Okay. Let's take that out of the mix. I would have to say one thing to do, this is what you said, would to be networking. I've spent 5 years of my career, 5 or 6 years of my career when I first started. And I did network. I was like, oh, I'm good in this bubble. I'm going to advance in this bubble. I'm going to work in this bubble and I'm good. I don't need anything. However, once you're outside of that bubble, there's so many different opportunities that it's kind of like that Plato's cave thing. Like you have no idea what's out there. So I think constantly engaging yourself, whether it's industry events or whether it's happening, whatever it is, getting to know your competition. They might have an opportunity. So I think that strategic networking is valuable when it comes to advancing, whether that's another job or maybe that's a person saying, hey, Lord, I really like your work ethic. In 2 years, I'm going to start my own company. I want people like you on board. So I think networking is obviously, I've seen the benefits, the values of it. I run my companies off of that. But yes, I think that probably is a great, great thing to start. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's mine. So I hit it back to you. What's your,
I should have Googled it because you would think there's an answer for this.
Nah,
so maybe
man.
Somebody should write a book, maybe we should write a book, because really focus, but it's got to be just how you spend your free time. I think that's a big thing because as individuals, we're so visually watched from different perspectives, and I think people get complacent, so like Facebook, they might do 20 different things on there, but they don't realize that their boss is looking at it.
Dude,
so keeping that stuff in mind, are you giving the right perception, on your platforms? I personally hardly do Facebook. I'm a LinkedIn guy, and the number one reason, if you're listening LinkedIn, is because I want to get business in, not junk in. I don't need to see 20 memes. I want to learn, hey, somebody got bought out. I want to see Exec Crew podcast come out and get information on some, imposter syndrome. I want some information. If I'm going to scroll, I want to be utilizing my time wisely while I'm scrolling.
So that goes to something else I just jotted down. During your free time, during your spare time, like, we're taking pay out of it. Go down the hall, go down the site, learn what someone else, go on location, learn what someone else is doing. Go down the hallway to someone down there, learn what they're doing. I think the more rounded you are, first off, I mean, it's always cool to learn because that kind of first off makes your job a little bit easier, makes their job a little bit easier, better communication. It's just the relationships are there. I think it works better. But I think adding value, you're right, during your off time, during your down, learning something new, whether it's a skill set, a trade, or about something, I think that speaks volumes. And not only that, you're just a more well-rounded individual.
Well, it shows you're driven, and it's, I guess, cross training would be the technical term from like a field standpoint, right? Which is super amazing. And every company wants that, because let's be honest, you don't want one guy that only knows one thing, because, what are you going to do when that one guy leaves, vice versa? There's a lot of that. And I mean, we saw a lot of that with, the gap we have in the oil field. That information didn't get passed on. So now we're learning mistakes again that we wish we wouldn't have, but that's just part of it.
Well, what sucks about that, man, I see a lot of not a lot of people asking questions if they don't know something.
Oh, right. Scared to, and
yeah.
How do we change the narrative on that? That's a whole separate one in itself, right?
That's a whole set. That's a completely separate one. But that's the thing. It's like there's such a gap when it comes to like knowledge, like whether it's sales, how to approach this, how to deal with rejection in sales,
right?
How to stay motivated in sales. I mean, it's not just order taking. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you really are putting out, your disciples of right. your company. And so how do you arm them? How do you arm them? So how do you stay motivated?
It's always funny because people ask me like the secret. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I hate to admit, this is just naturally me. Like I am super positive. I don't let anything bother me. It's like I said in the beginning, let it be there. Negative stuff's going to happen. You're going to get no's, you're going to get this, but keep pushing forward. The more positive you are, I'm looking for a choice of words, and you might have it, JP, in your thoughts when I say it, but like what I put out to the universe is what I'm going to get, right? So I'm always positive.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But that's tough too, man. It is a choice. It is a mindset, but sometimes it's tough. Like last week, dude, I got in a real bad funk, dude. And I'm normally positive. I'm normally this, but like, dude, I was down. Like, I don't know why, but now, now I know. I went to the doctor and got blood work and all that stuff, but nothing serious, like, low testosterone, but I'm 43 years old. So that's normal. But
right, I know, say, yeah.
But it affected my mood. And it was so interesting to me. But like, it's like, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay positive? Especially when the world around you might not be going good. Rigs might be going, or an M&A just happened where you do lose a customer or something like that. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so difficult to stay positive. I think having influences of positivity, people in your life that are positive, whether you talk to them or just listen or learn from, that helps. Or talking about it too. I think, I mean, if it's in funk, talk to someone.
I mean, from like anatomy standpoint, I mean, it's a basic theory. I mean, your thoughts turn into emotions, so if you're thinking about negative stuff, you're going to have a negative emotion.
So you believe in like you believe in manifestation, like big vibration?
Time. Absolutely.
You listen to Joe Dispenza and all that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too. I believe in that stuff.
Yeah. But luckily for me, like I said, it's super. I wake up happy. I'm really good. I mean, what? Ain't nobody going to break me down. Ain't nobody going to break my stride. Ain't nobody going to slow me down. Isn't that one a sweet lyric from a 90s song? Maybe
that is. So hey, if you had to tell yourself something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you first started to propel you in the career, right? Without pay, what would that advice be? That's a question, right? Like that?
Always take the pay deduction for the career increase every time. Because at the end of the day, that is a big issue. And that's kind of part of this thing, but it's another long one too. If you want to grow and you want to grow your career, 9 times out of 10, the first and second leap, I hate to admit it to everybody listening, you're going to take a pay cut because you're not working in the field. You're not doing this, but there's going to be incentives too. So keep that in mind, time with your family, whatever, vehicles, company trucks, allowances, whatever the case may be. Always take the pay cut to get the career advancement.
That's interesting. And I think, because I was talking to my dad in a different industry, but he's like, I had to take kind of half of my salary with my second job, but that job allowed him to reach success. Like it's one of those things, like it may not be appetizing this first go around, this first step, but in the long term, that's kind of where you want to be. And I think of people that chase titles, I want to be, I'm 30 years old. I want to be, director. I'm 35. I want to be VP. I'm this. I want to be this. You start chasing titles just to chase titles, and you're not chasing it for whether it's fulfillment or adding value or learning growth, just to chase titles. You're going to find that road stop. And not only that, like it's kind of a tough place to be whenever there is a big pool of people with that title.
Right.
And just because you're chasing it. So it's okay to take a little time in your career to learn and to stay in that student zone as well, I think.
Oh, I agree 100%. You nailed it. That is absolutely correct. Yeah, don't chase the title. And I always call it rig jumping. Don't jump for $1.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is super common, you know. I mean, I get it. And we try to say money isn't the big driver, but it's 90% of the driver. It's always going to be that's the transaction we make. We give you our time for this financial return. That's just what it is. But there is a lot of stuff that should be put in the balance for sure.
So, all right, we're coming up on 40 minutes now. I love it. Let's I want to get this. Let's look ahead. Let's look ahead. What are you focused on for, we're talking about, Q1 almost over. I love it. It's like end of January. It's all right. Oh, I love oil fields. Like, oh man, no, Q2 is almost up too. What are some of the, I guess, and look, we don't have to be specific, okay, when it comes to goals or anything like that. But what are some of the things that kind of you're focused on personally in this, whether it's a short-term goal or a medium length goal?
So one of my big ones is I want to write a book. Now
about what? I love it.
You just nailed it. I don't know. I just jotted down, I want to write down a book, and I'm just drawing blanks, right? So that's just it. But I did, when I was writing goals, I was like, what would be something that I could put out there that's permanent was kind of my idea, right? That, leaves a dent in whatever it is. I just don't know what it's going to be yet.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And is it, I'm assuming, okay, never mind. That's first off, that's exciting.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, but it's still, it's like I threw a dart and that's what I hit, right? And it's just sitting there. Luckily, it's only January. So I need to work on that.
Yeah, the year's almost over, though. The year's over. That's exciting. Okay, what else you got? That's exciting, though.
I mean, from a business standpoint, I have some specifics. So I try to get 2 to 3 new customers on the books a month. Try to grow 10% of my month each month. On top of last year, which is a huge feat, right? It might not be attainable, but I think it sounds really good. I'm sure everybody does that's listening. And make sure my weekends are filled more with knowledge and not so much relaxation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been doing that too. I've been like going on walks instead of like, whatever. I've either been calling people or I've been like listening to like books that like provide at night. I'm not watching TV. I'm like reading now. Like I'm trying to read now. I don't like, I'm not a reader, but now I am. Like I'm trying to like get into it. Like I'm digging like the small increment changes and the benefit that has on a personal level. I dig it.
I love it. That's exactly it. You nailed it. Actually, I just got a book. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like
hey, I saw that. It's the 7 ingredients of life.
Or 7 tools to like I can't remember what the title. I just got it yesterday, so I'll have to like put in the comments. But yeah, I haven't started it yet. So it seems simple, but I mean, going back to the basics never hurt nobody either.
Man, right? It doesn't hurt. So I'm in a process. I got like 4 books like I'm reading now. I guess I'm trying to learn how to read again, and I got 4 books. Well, I get one. Every morning it's Daily Stoic, and then it's I try to do Leadership Mindset 2.0. I downloaded Steve Jobs. I've never read autobiographies before, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to do this. I got Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, read that. I'm like, okay, I'm digging this. So, man, I'm trying this whole like get inspired from like different thinkers, different leaders. I mean, so far Steve Jobs sounds like a maniac, but it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I mean, what he does is effective. So it's worth a read, I would imagine.
It is 100%. So what word do you want? First off, how can people contact you? All right.
So my email is bmidkiff@performancepulsation.com. My work phone number is 972-922-2048. And then, of course, the website, www.performancepulsation.com. And I mean, let's be honest, we got to throw in a little piece there. If you need any pulsation control, give us a call. We're the guys that you need.
Okay. Well, that's also good. But also on a personal note, for those out there listening that could just kind of like, Lord, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're a very generous person to help people out to kind of
of course, yeah. If anybody asks me a question, I'm more than glad to assist anyway.
And so, yeah, so like on a personal note, for those out there listening, that kind of whether it's bounce ideas off of, get ideas. I mean, just I would highly suggest go to his profile, check it out. The content he's putting out there. I hope you continue to keep putting out there.
Oh, I definitely will. Of course. Yes.
It's knowledgeable. It's great tricks. It's little stuff like that. And honestly, whether you emulate exactly what he's talking about it, or the coolest part is though, Lord, you were talking about stuff, and I was like, that's a great idea. But I started thinking like, what about? Oh, that's another good idea. It helps the creative process going on a personal level. So, hey, I want to thank you for your time, man. I always enjoy chatting with you. Whether it's watching your stuff, whether it's the Energy Crew podcast, it's inspiring to talk to you. It's motivating. So
good. That's perfect. I love it. Well, vice versa. It's exciting.
Well, we don't have an answer to the question that we came out here to solve. However, there is some guidance. Okay, it's build your networks, right?
Absolutely.
It's connect with people. It's learn stuff you don't know. It's be uncomfortable and be okay with your weaknesses, with your blind spots.
Let them be there. Just let them be there.
And if you need a good pickup, you call Lord.
There you go. Yeah, I'll give you one.
Everyone, I want to thank you out there for tuning in to Energy Crew Podcast. We appreciate it. And hey, look, if you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe. Dude, I found out that we have a YouTube channel, and I found out that 85% of the people that watch the YouTube channel aren't subscribers. So if you're on this YouTube, subscribe, please. I probably should have said it at the beginning, but regardless, thank you, Lord. I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to the next conversation, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.